We want to change topics now and turn to the issue of immigration and border security. It's something you both have touched on as part of your campaigns. Each candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer the first question. Ms. Conroy, you'll be going first. This past year, lawmakers worked on but failed to pass a bipartisan immigration bill. What do you think the solution is, and what can you do as a member of Congress?
The solution is definitely to pass a border security bill as fast as we can. Republican Senator Jim Lankford of Oklahoma drafted a bill. Both houses were prepared to follow through on it, and then the then presumed Republican nominee for president announced that he didn't want that to be solved. And so Republicans in the House and in the Senate, unfortunately, decided to tank Senator Lankford's draft bill, and that was terribly unfortunate. We definitely need to put country over party and secure all of our borders, not just the southern border, to make sure that the people and the things that we want to come in, because immigration as well as trade is so important to our economy, but we also need to secure our borders and keep out the people and the things that threaten our security. As a Foreign Service officer, my very first job at the U.S. Consulate General in Auckland, New Zealand, was to screen people 3,000 miles away from our borders to make sure that nobody got on a plane that shouldn't be on a plane. And so this is something that I've spent my entire life pursuing, national security, and I look forward to putting that expertise to work in Congress.
Thank you. Mr. Baumgartner, you have 1:30 as well.
Yeah, I think the unsecured southern border is really the highest threat facing our country and the top priority of Congress to address. I had the opportunity to visit the southern border some months ago, and we went down there with some Border Patrol agents, and what we saw was in the middle of the night, about 3 in the morning, some drug cartels from the Mexican side dropped up some migrants, and they walked right around where the border wall ends and came into the country and then declared themselves to be refugees, and then entered the catch and release refugee program of the current Biden administration. And before I went down to the border, I talked to sheriffs and law enforcement all across eastern Washington, and every single one of them said the biggest problem in their communities is the fentanyl that's pouring over that border. So what we need to do is we need to be sympathetic to refugees, but we need to return to the Trump era policies of adjudicating refugee status in Mexico. Remain in Mexico was so important because both my wife and I have worked with refugees. I did it in Mozambique in between going to WSU and Harvard. We're sympathetic to refugees, but there's quite frankly just a number of people that are abusing the goodness of America coming into the country. And it's bringing not only drugs in, but is absolutely a national security threat from potential terrorists infiltrating that border as well too. So that'll be job number one on day one if I do make it to Congress, and I'm absolutely committed to securing that southern border.
Thank you. A follow-up now on immigration. Would you be willing to work across party lines to try to reach a solution? Ms. Conroy, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. I would absolutely work across party lines in the interest of our national security. As I said before, there was a perfectly good bipartisan bill, probably the toughest border security bill that we've seen presented in Congress, or that could have been presented in Congress, in over 30 years. And unfortunately, one side of the aisle decided that at the direction of the leader of their party, they would not even present that bill to a vote. And I think it's terribly unfortunate because there were Democrats as well as Republicans who were very disappointed that one extreme position drove that very good bill away from the floor so that that problem couldn't be solved just as quickly as possible. And I would work to solve problems as quickly as we could with anybody who is serious about security the way that I am.
Thank you. Mr. Baumgartner?
Yeah, the fundamental problem with the Lankford bill was that it didn't do anything about catch and release as migrants come into the U.S. It didn't focus on the return in Mexico problem. Even Senator Lankford now admits that his bill was insufficient. But yeah, when it comes to working across the aisle, that's my entire experience in the state legislature. You know, while we did have a majority in the state Senate as Republicans, Democrats had the majority in the House and in the governor's seat. So every bill that I've ever had passed as a legislator, and there were a lot, like the WSU Medical School bill, always had Democrat support in the House and in the governor's seat. So I've a lot of experience working across the aisle, and I think we'll be successful at that as well, too. We've already had calls and discussions with other members of the Washington State delegation that works in D.C., and I'm optimistic that we'll be able to work together. Because it shouldn't be about whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. It should be about ideas and policies and saving this great nation of ours.